What happens to a democracy when the will of its people is not merely ignored, but deliberately sidestepped? When elected officials, sworn to uphold transparency and accountability, engage in covert strategies to undo the most consequential vote in modern British history. The answer, as laid bare by the UK Supreme Court's explosive ruling, is that democracy itself begins to rot from the inside. Let us dispense with euphemisms. What Keir Starmer's leadership has been caught orchestrating is not a political miscalculation, it is a calculated betrayal. A constitutional deception engineered with surgical precision to erase Brexit without public consent. This wasn't just a political pivot or policy innovation. This was a subversion of the democratic contract between the government and the governed, and it cannot go unanswered. For years, the British people have been told to move on, to accept the slow erosion of their Brexit decision as the price of political pragmatism. But moving on was never meant to involve being silently dragged back into the EU through the back door, through a series of quietly negotiated legal entanglements disguised as trade partnerships. The court's 76-page judgment makes clear that this was not theoretical. It was already underway. A reality hidden in confidential memos, undisclosed legal drafts, and shadow diplomacy. The real scandal is not merely the covert nature of these negotiations, though that alone is damning. It is the arrogance of political elite that believe they could reinterpret the nation's mandate, repackage it, and reverse it, all without a single voter having a say. That is not representative government. That is technocratic authoritarianism masquerading as governance. What makes this moment so dangerous is not just a breach of trust, it is the normalization of deception. Starmer's government did not simply fail to consult Parliament or the public. They constructed an elaborate apparatus of secrecy. They treated democracy not as a foundational principle, but as an obstacle to be worked around. What confidence can the British people have in their institutions when leadership views accountability as optional and oversight as a nuisance? And let's be clear, this is not a partisan issue. Whether one supported Brexit or not, the principle at stake transcends a leave-remain divide. This is about sovereignty, not abstract constitutional theory, but the lived power of the people to shape the course of their country. If that right can be undone in silence, through legal technicalities and bureaucratic sleight of hand, then democracy becomes performance, something that looks real on paper but vanishes behind closed doors. The Supreme Court's ruling is a damning verdict on more than just one party. It exposes a political culture where institutional maneuvering trumps public will, where policy is built in secret and sold in sound bites, where national direction can be dictated by unelected policy advisors and former EU diplomats colluding behind hotel room doors. The public was never meant to see this. Parliament was never meant to debate it. That was the plan. And it was only derailed by a brave whistleblower and an independent judiciary unwilling to play along. Starmer's defenders will now scramble to reframe this as a legal misunderstanding, a miscommunication, perhaps even an overzealous attempt at economic cooperation. But no amount of spin can disguise what this was, a deliberate campaign to roll back the result of a democratic referendum without consent or clarity. And in doing so, they have not only undermined trust in government, they have triggered a constitutional crisis. This is a reckoning. The moment where political expediency meets the hard wall of public scrutiny. The court did its part. It exposed the scheme, invalidated the legal framework, and delivered a clear, unflinching rebuke. Now the responsibility falls to the electorate, to Parliament, and to every serious voice in British public life to demand accountability. Resignations are not optional, they are required. Parliamentary inquiries must follow. The documents, names, and timelines must be made fully public. And most importantly, the British people must be given the respect of transparency going forward. No government, regardless of how secure its majority may appear, has the right to govern in shadows. There comes a time in every democracy when the people must draw a hard line. This is that time. If we allow this level of institutional deception to pass with hand-wringing and polite finger-wagging, we set a precedent far more dangerous than any Brexit-related consequence. We tell future leaders that the will of the people is negotiable, that democracy is malleable, that sovereignty can be bargained away in private. No nation that tolerates such conduct remains free for long. The lesson of this moment is clear. Democratic power belongs to the people, not the bureaucrats, not the backroom diplomats, not even the Prime Minister. And when that power is stolen, even in silence, it is a duty of the people to roar back with unmistakable force. This isn't over. It's only the beginning.